people say, well, what's St. Andrews like? On that little small turf, patch of square turf on that ground, have walked the greatest players in the game.
With his red hair, gap-tooth smile and an incredible will to win, he's become one of the most recognisable golfers of the last 4 decades. He's won 8 majors and was part of one of the greatest rivalries the sport has ever seen.
That was my goal, to be the best. And to be the best, obviously, you have to beat the best, and that was Jack.
He learned to play golf on this very course in Kansas City, and this summer it'll be his 40th year at the Open Championship.
The 2015 Open Championship at St. Andrews, and most likely it would be my last.
It can only be Tom Watson. 40 years at the Open. You've won it 5 times. If you could look back now when you started, could you believe any of that was possible?
Well, you go into playing a golf tournament with some sort of expectations, and that was really early in my career in 1975 when I played my first Open at Carnoustie, and I didn't know what to expect. My father, when I was growing up, he taught me the game, the passion. He had the passion for the game. I learned it from him. My dad said, you know, you ought to read this book by O.B. Keeler, Down the Fairway with Bobby Jones. You know, I read the book, and then The Greatest Game Ever Played with Francis We Met. Those stories really piqued my interest and made me start to dream about golf.
1975, your debut, and you win at Carnoustie. What are your memories of that tournament?
Well, the memories I had, it started off in London. I wanted to make sure that, from a practical standpoint, that I got adjusted to the time zone change, where I wasn't going to be tired or sleepy when I woke up in the morning early. We played a round of golf there, and then we traveled up to Edinburgh and got to rent a car, and we drove out to the house that we rented in Montefieth, which is just down the road, about 5 or 10 miles down the road from Carnoustie. And so we get up there, and Keith McKenzie, who was the secretary there, met us and said, whatever we can do for you. And I said, well, we're going to go out and play a practice round. And he said, oh no, you can't. I said, what do you mean we can't? Well, today the course is reserved for the qualifiers only. And I said, well, what are our options? He said, well, there's the course we're staying in Montefieth. I'll arrange for you to go play at Montefieth. And so that's what we did. Went out, met the pro, and went to the first tee. And this is my first shot on links golf. I'll never forget it. I hit the drive right down the middle of the fairway. And so did John and Hubert Green, with whom we were playing. Found both their balls. Didn't find my ball.
Straight down the fairway? Right
down the middle of the fairway. Didn't find my ball. Now the fairways there is just bumpy and like this and all like this. It was just dry as a bone. I mean, it was really, really dry. The ball was running forever. Couldn't find the ball. Now, how do you think I felt about links golf then? Well, that stayed with me. That negative stayed with me for a number of years until I finally kind of came around to the fact that it's a game of the bounce. It's not a game of carrying the ball and stopping the ball. You have to factor in the roll to your distance. And that the ultimate challenge in links golf, and I say this, is to get the right weight on your shot.
Before 75, before you won at Carnoustie, is it fair to say that you were almost better known for someone who fell away at the end? I'm thinking of the US Open in 74. What changed in that short time period?
I've said it many times, the way I learned how to win was by hating failure so much and learning to get through it and learning how to deal with the pressure. And most important lesson I think I learned throughout my formative years on the tour was the fact that you don't have to play your best to win. Because I was 3 or 4 shots behind. I can't remember exactly how many shots, maybe 3. The last five holes really took the toll on everybody, except for Jack Newton, who did par of the last hole, and actually 17 as well. 17 was right into the teeth of the wind, a very tough par 4. We ended up in a playoff, and Jack and I went tooth and nail for 18 holes, and he missed a par putt in the last hole, and I made par, and I won the Open Championship.
Your second claret jug came at Turnberry, the famous duel in the sun in '77, and your rivalry with Jack Nicklaus defined golf in that time?
Well, I think it stems from my early days when I had a chance to play with Jack, right about 50 miles west of where we're sitting right now in Topeka, Kansas. When I was 16 years old, I was invited to play in an exhibition with Jack. I knew his history and had a tremendous respect for him, and I watched him like a hawk. I wanted to do what Jack did, and I patterned my swing after Jack, upright, tried to finish this way with a little cut shot, and watching him, learning from him was part and parcel of what made me a better golfer.
Back to Turnberry, it's considered one of the finest tournaments ever played. Can you enjoy it while you're there playing, or is it only afterwards that you realise what everyone else was watching?
That was one tournament, one of just a handful of tournaments in my career that I really felt I had a good chance of winning when I went into it. That was the time in my career I really felt that I had arrived, that I could play and beat the big boys, namely Jack Nicklaus. And I had beaten him, he was second at the Masters earlier that year in April. And so this was kind of a confirmation. I took him on kind of head-to-head the last 2 rounds at Turnberry. And that was my goal, to be the best. And to be the best, obviously, you have to beat the best, and that was Jack.
77 was close. 80 was anything but at Muirfield. You had an outstanding year, and I imagine just winning that Claret Jug again just topped it off.
Well, that year was, it was particularly good at that time of the year because I think I was putting my absolute best in my career. I knew my game plan. My game plan, very simply, was to stay out of the bunkers. If I could stay out of the bunkers at Muirfield, I'd win, because my putting was so superb that week, and that's what happened.
Another Open in '82, again in Scotland. What is it with you and Scotland? You just got a love affair with the country.
Well, I was lucky at Troon. Nick Price, by all rights, should have won the tournament. He had it by the. As he said at the when he won it for the first time, he said at one time I had one hand on the trophy, and now I have both hands. But that one hand was in '82 when I think he had me by 5 shots going into the back 9, and he faltered. And it was one of those things that happens in golf. Sometimes you don't win it, somebody else loses it.
I can feel for him because I've been in that position before, and I think that the man will shine again. There's no question about it.
A year later, this time on English soil at Royal Birkdale, you got your 5th Claret Jug. What are your feelings of that tournament, of that win?
I wasn't playing particularly well, but I was hitting enough good shots. I managed to stay within shouting distance, and I was waiting for something to happen that final round, just waiting and waiting. And I put myself in pretty good position most of the round. Nothing happened with the putter. And then in 16 it happened. Boom, I make it from about 25 feet for birdie. Now I'm in the lead, and I'm playing the par 5 17th. And then I had to play the last hole with a 1-shot lead. And right into the wind, the 18th at Birkdale is not the easiest of finishing holes. That was probably the most satisfying shot I've played in competitive golf. The toughest shot in the bag, toughest club in the bag to hit is 2-iron. And I hit it as well as I possibly could hit it. And of course, I couldn't see it drop because the crowd, as soon as I hit it, just like the Red Sea coming back together, they came like that, and all I could see was heads. But when I broke through the crowd, it was about 15 feet from the hole. And now I'm saying to myself, okay, all I've got to do is 2-putt, which is kind of the wrong thing to, it's the wrong but the right thing to think about. And I remember hitting the putt, and I hit it right in the neck of the putter. I mean, I mishit it so badly, and it hit it about that far short. I was just trying to lag it up there, but I made the putt. But that 2-iron, I go back to that shot. That's probably the most satisfying shot in my competitive history at the Open.
Yes, he has.
When you've been so successful for so long, what's it like coming close, as you did many times, but never actually getting the victory you wanted? Is it a difficult process?
No. I have 5 in the bank. So if I had none in the bank and it came close, as I did in 2009, the disappointment would have been greater. But the way I've always looked at it is that you when you lose a golf tournament, you can you take apart what you did to lose. What you do, you go to that to those failures, and you work on those failures to make them successes on the practice tee, so that the next time you're on the golf course, you have that success mentality rather than a failure mentality for that particular shot, that situation.
You mentioned 2009 already, and it sticks in the mind for so many reasons. You inspired, I think, a lot of people during that tournament.
I did.
You did. You really did.
That was the best thing that came out of that tournament.
Yes. But what was it like coming so close after such a gap?
It was extremely disappointing to not win. I had it within my grasp, and I hit the shot at the 18th hole that I'd hit the same shot over again. It probably caught a gust of wind. Some people claim that it did, an extra gust of wind that pushed it over the green. And I didn't do my job in getting the ball up and down when I had, that was in fact the case. And Stuart Sink hit every shot in the playoff perfectly, and I didn't. And that was the difference. But the disappointment was great. On the other hand, I looked at the response from people who made a very strong point in saying, Tom, I gave up on a lot of things in life because of my age. And seeing you do this at age 59, I'm going to have second thoughts about that. I can still do things, they say. I can still do it. If you can do it, I can do it. And that was the best response. It was a general response from a lot of people. It made me feel good, even in defeat, that I gave that type of emotion to people, or that type of realization to people that, yeah, you can still do it. And I scared those kids too. When they saw that Watson on the leaderboard that had T rather than B for Bubba, I said, who the hell is this guy? He's not supposed to be doing this.
You changed the rules that day as well. The RNA gave you another 5 years.
Well, it wasn't exactly that day. It took about a year later, but
yes.
They did. Yeah.
How thankful are you for the RNA to do that, to give you this chance to make history, really, and be in the Open for the 40th year?
It's just an honest request to Peter Dawson that I made to him. Said, if you can find, you and the RNA committee can find it in your hearts to allow me to finish my career at the home of golf at St. Andrews, I'd much appreciate that and welcome that end to my career in the Open Championship. And I basically phrased it that way. And it didn't take hardly any time at all for Peter to come back and said, Tom, I think we can make this happen. And it was a very gracious thing to do to me, and I have a lot of gratitude to the RNA for allowing me to play one more year. Do I think I'm taking up another person's spot who could win or play better than I? Possibly. And I don't want to do that. Jack always said that about his playing ability. He said, if I can't play and have the ability to win a golf tournament, reasonable ability, I'm going to quit. I'm not going to take up a spot for somebody else who does have that ability. And it's not right. And that's what I've always loved about Jack, and his honesty about his own, and his assessment about his own game. And I feel the same way about my game.
Of course, you've been through the emotions of something similar to this with Jack. It was almost fitting in 2005 that you played in his last round. How much would you like it for him to be out with you this summer?
No, well, he's not going to be playing with me.
I know that. It's that imagery of going across the bridge and all the pictures when Jack stops and you were there. You've been through those emotions. Are you ready for that?
No, I'm not ready to quit. But the reality of it is I'm going to have to probably quit playing professional golf, shortly. My distance is getting shorter and shorter. My desire is still there, though. And my desire and my understanding, sometimes your belief in yourself outweighs your ability. But I've always been pretty brutally honest about the way I play. It stems back to my dad, the way he taught me how to play. He never suffered a shot that wasn't purely hit by saying it was a good shot. If it was purely hit, he said, that was flush, son. If it was a good shot, I mean, if it was a shot, I hit it 2 feet from the hole, but it wasn't a flush shot, so you hit that in the toe. And that's the way I assess my game, and the way Jack assesses his game, and that's the way I'll end my career.
Apparently, someone once said to you, "Do you collect anything for luck?" Can you remember what your reply was?
I don't.
Apparently, you said opens.
Well, it's a pretty smug answer, wasn't it?
It's a good answer, though. You've always been an advocate of keeping the spirit of the game alive. You're known for your honesty. How important is that to the game of golf?
Well, you know, the game, and you know, if we look at our society in general, I think we're losing our focus in a lot of ways of respect for each other. And you know, there's all kinds of political issues and other issues which take precedence over common respect. My dad, get back to my dad again, the way he lived his life was the golden rule, which is in every major religion there is. And that's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Respect, you show others respect, they'll respect you. We've lost that, I think, and a lot. You know, you and a man, be the ball, mashed potatoes, things like that. You know, the game isn't like that. I'm sorry, it just isn't. And you know, at least there's still that arena. Golf still has that arena of respect. I get back to one thing that I tell people about our game, which is different than any other game. Turnberry in 1977, the final hole. Jack Nicklaus hits it in the right rough. I'm in the fairway. I hit my shot first. I don't know how close it is, but I know it's close. I have a 1-shot lead. Jack somehow extricates this ball out of the rough onto the green. He has about a 40-foot putt. He makes this putt, forcing me to make this short putt like this. The crowd absolutely was in a roar, and it didn't diminish. It didn't diminish, and it didn't diminish. And I said, I'm not going to wait around any longer. I'm going to go ahead and putt. Even if the crowd's still cheering for Jack, I'm going to putt. So I put my marker down. I put my ball down, picked my marker up, and as I picked my marker up, I stand up and I see out of the corner of my eye, Jack goes like this with his hands. And in 3 seconds, that tumultuous roar went to an absolute silence. 3 seconds. 3 seconds. I don't know how many people, 15,000 people around there, went to all silence. That's the respect that those people had for the game and for Jack, and Jack had for the game. And that's the difference of our game versus other games right there.
In the UK and USA, participation in golf is going down.
It is. It is.
Is that a worry to someone
yes,
who's
it's
an
a worry.
advocate of the game?
It is a worry, and I hate to see it because golf can instill such great values in the playing of the game. What do we need to do about it to stem the tide and get more people involved with the game? There are all kinds of different things, but basically it's a time issue. And it's an issue of that you'd rather be on your cell phone doing this than you would on a golf course. You spend more time in the social media part of your life, as I do. I do too. I'm 2 hours in the email every morning. Man, what am I doing that for? I don't know. I'm trying to get away from I'm hooked. But you know, I'm guilty of it as well. So that's what we have to deal with in the game. And but it will come back around. The game is too good a sport because it teaches you humility. If you don't want to be taught humility, don't play the game. You know, they say A-type personalities don't do well in the game. Well, they don't because they can't control it. The game controls you. There's a certain amount of control that you can take of the game, but you can't totally control the game. Nobody ever has, nobody ever will. So if you think you can, then it's not the game for you.
Some quick fire questions. What would you have done if you hadn't been a golfer?
I'd like to have been a surgeon.
Your most embarrassing moments on a golf course?
when I swore like a sailor after hitting the bad shot with the, unbeknownst to me, with the lady scorer and the sign boy right to the back of me. And I said, oh, I am so sorry. Like this is, don't worry about it. My husband talks like that all the time.
Your one hope for the sport going forward?
That people will gravitate to the game in greater numbers than they are now.
Your favourite golf course in the world?
Pebble Beach.
Your favourite individual golf hole in the world?
16th hole, Cypress Point.
Very specific. Why? Just out of interest?
It's a par 3 that is just, when you play that golf course, you know you have to play that par 3 from the first tee on.
One piece of advice you would give a rookie professional starting today?
You don't have to play your best to win.
Which of the 5 open courses you won on would you play right now if you could only pick one?
Muirfield.
It's so nice to see you still have such a passion for the sport and a passion for the Open Championship.
Well, the Open Championship is the oldest in the game. It has such a great history to it. St. Andrews, of course, has the most prominent part of that history. And of course, this year's the 2015 Open Championship at St. Andrews, and most likely it will be my last. And I'm looking forward to that. You know, every time people say, well, what's St. Andrews like? What is it like in an Open Championship? Or what is it just like normally? And I said, when you get to the first tee, you look around, you see this huge expanse of fairway, you know, all the way over to the buildings to the left. You see this long shot over the burn over there, but I mean, you've got acres to hit the ball into. It starts you off with a handshake, just a very simple drive. And but then you realize that on that little small turf, patch of square turf on that ground, have walked the greatest players in the game. I mean, not from just recent history or a century ago, but prior to that. And that gives you a sense of, it gives you a comprehensive sense of the game. It makes you feel like you've walked the same grounds as the greatest and as the greatest who've ever played, and the stories that go along with it. And there are so many stories that go along with it.